All right, here we go for flow today. Let's start on our backs with the soles of the feet on the mat. Lying down, arms out by the sides. And let's start with the knees together, feet wide. That's always a nice way to begin. Closing the eyes. It usually brings more space to the lower back when we have the legs this way. And even if you don't have anything going on in the lower back, it's just a nice way to calm the body. So take a deep breath in through the nose, back out through the nose. This time, deep breath in through the nose, back out through the mouth. One more like that. Deep breath in through the nose, sigh it out the mouth. This time, deep breath in through the nose, fill all the way up. Slow breath out through the nose. Keep going with this one, Ujjayi. Then blink open the eyes, reach the arms overhead, finding a stretch. You could keep the legs the way that they are, or you could extend the legs out in front of you if you want a deeper stretch across the whole body, just seeing how that feels. If it bothers your lower back, then just keep the soles of the feet on the mat. We're coming back there anyway. So if you're not there already, walk the feet back in. And this time you'll keep the feet hip width distance apart. Interlace the fingers back behind the head and rest the head in the hands. So hips are down on the mat, heads resting in the hands, and the feet are down on the mat. So we'll play with reverse crunches. So take an inhale where you are. On the exhale, knees and elbows come together, but you don't have to touch. Just keep the elbows wide. And then inhale back. Exhale, lift. Inhale back. Exhale, lift. You just lightly set the feet back down between each rep. Inhale back. Exhale, lift. Inhale back. Exhale, lift. Two more like this. Inhale back. Exhale, lift. Inhale back. Exhale, lift. Stay lifted. Bring the knees and the feet all the way together, and then extend the legs out in front of you, hovering the feet away from the mat. Bring the right knee in, twist to the right. Back to center, bring the left knee in, twist to the left. If it's too hard with the legs extended out in front of you, going side to side, you could just keep more movement, and then you don't really have both legs out and you can go a little faster. Another way is to have the knees bent first and then extend and twist. So all different options. Choose the one that's the best challenge for you. Best meaning you can do it and stay with the pace and still feel that work. One more time each side. And then extend the legs out in front of you. Reach the arms forward. Chest is lifted. Come up to Navasana. Ooh, chest is lifted. You're looking up. Knees squeeze together. Inner edges of the feet squeeze together. And then set the feet down on the mat. Bring the hands back behind you. And let's cross the right ankle on top of the left thigh. So just like thread the needle, but the hands are back behind you. You're reclined. You can start to walk this left foot in, and that deepens the stretch. That outer right knee's pressing away from you, right foot still flexed to protect that right knee. And once you get the legs in, if you feel like you're not feeling anything, you could walk the hands in and just bring everything a little tighter together, but you choose what you need for your hip and overall alignment. So trying to keep the hips square, you're even on the sit bones. So sometimes we rock way over to the right side and get light in the left side. See if you can stay even. And if everything's going crooked, then just walk the left foot out until you feel like you can find that space again. Okay, so legs will stay in a similar shape. We're just going to extend that bottom leg, keep the right ankle on top of the left thigh. And now we'll come into, you're going to wiggle weave the fingers between the toes. So the index finger goes between the big toe and the second toe. And then you'll go from there between each toe, getting a finger between all of them. So it's like you're holding hands with your foot. And you're trying, we all have different anatomy and different feet. So you might not be able to get a finger between each toe, but just do what you can. And it's like you're holding hands with your foot. So maybe you can get the toes, the fingers all the way down to the base of the toes and the toes all the way up to the base of the fingers. Grab onto the top of the foot. And then from here, you'll just move the left elbow, flare it out, and then bring it back in so that you're moving the top of the foot back and forth. Bringing some heat there, getting some movement without putting any weight on it. We'll do some footwork today, get into the feet. You'll definitely need all that core stuff for where we're headed. We'll be playing with our balance and it'll be fun. Okay, so come back to stillness and then keep the fingers all the way down toward the base of the toes. Spread the fingers as wide as you can, which means you're spreading the toes as wide as you can. And then start to take the fingers out from between the toes, extend that right foot forward, and then maybe look at the feet. They might look a little different, particularly in color. So hands come back behind you. You're sitting back in that reclined position. Cross the left ankle on top of the right thigh. And you start to slide this right foot in, coming back into this seated reclined, thread the needle. Left foot's flexed. Up to you how much you bring this right foot in. You're just trying to feel a nice opening on that left hip. Chest is lifted, spine is tall, but you could be reclined. Or maybe the chest is coming up pretty close to that left knee. And then extend the right leg forward. Keep the crossing of the left ankle, right thigh. Take the right hand, bring the index finger between the big toe and the second toe, and then weave each finger between each toe as best you can. And if you have to skip a toe, that's fine too. Work the fingers all the way down to the base of the toes, toes to the base of the fingers, and then you flare that right elbow out, just moving it forward and back. I like that cue of the elbow because I think if we don't focus on that, then we're not really moving the foot all that much. So if you get the elbow involved, then you're definitely getting good movement in the top of the left foot. And this is a great way to warm up the feet whenever your feet are cold. My toes are a little cold. Okay, so come to stillness. Maybe see if you can wiggle the fingers down a little bit more if you made more space. And then spread the fingers as wide as you can, trying to spread the toes as wide as you can. And start to wiggle the fingers out from between the toes. Hands come back behind you. Extend that left foot forward. Take a look at the feet. Spread the toes as wide as you can on your own, both feet. Just take a look, see if you can get space between each toe. Some of us have an easier time doing that than others. And then relax the feet, let them come back together. So come forward to hands and knees. We'll stay in the feet. And once you come to hands and knees, you'll bring the knees and the feet all the way together. So they're touching, and you're going to tuck the toes underneath you. And you'll start to walk the hands back. And as you walk the hands back, you're putting more weight on the foot. Maybe the hands come up to the thighs, but you can keep the hands down on the mat if this is enough. If you want more and it's okay in the feet, you could bring the hands to the thighs, and then you sit all the way up if that's possible. Just make sure the fourth and fifth toe are going straight forward. Good. And then interlace the fingers back behind the head if you're all the way up. If you're not all the way up, don't worry, you just skip this part. It's not a big deal. And then from here, exhale, bring the forearms in toward the side of the head and round the upper back. Then inhale, open up the elbows, lift the heart. So it's like cat-cow. Exhale, round the spine, forearms come in toward the side of the head, touching. Inhale, lift the heart. Keep going on your own with your own breath. There's something comforting about the forearms on the side of the head when you apply just a light pressure. So many different ways to hold and comfort ourselves, and trying to distract you from the toe squat you're in at the same time. So this might be a nice way as you bring the forearms in toward the head to soothe yourself. Let's do one more cycle. Fold it back in. Inhale, open it back up. Then bring the hands down to the mat in front of you, untuck the toes, sit back onto the heels. So now we're stretching the foot the other way. You're sitting on the heels, coming to kneeling. You could prop yourself up on a block or come to seated if your knees aren't into it. Also getting into the ankles, tops of the feet. Reach the arms forward, palms facing up. Let's bring the right arm over the left arm. Some version of eagle arms. You can grab the shoulder blades and just work pulling those apart. You can bring the backs of the forearms together, maybe the left fingertips inside of the right hand. Move the hands over the elbows, and then maybe the forearms start to lift up, but they don't have to. You're listening to your upper back. Then reach the arms forward, palms up, switching sides, left arm on top of right, eagle arms here, taking the same variation you did on the first side, shoulders away from the ears, maybe the forearms lift, keep the hands away from the face if you are bringing the forearms together. Then release the arms down by the sides, hands come down to the mat, and you want them outside of the legs. So you may be getting enough of an ankle stretch here. I'll give you another option if you want to go a little bit deeper. So hug those outer ankles in a little bit so they're not splaying out. Heels are pointing straight back. And then pressing down into the tops of the feet, you can lift the knees up. And that's a deeper stretch for the top of the foot. Ankles will all be different in where we are with this. What's funny is after that core work, I'm able to get my knees up way higher than I typically can because I typically teach this in yin when we're cold. Set the knees back down to the mat. Walk the hands forward toward the top of the mat, and then step back to plank pose. So stacking the shoulders over the wrists, hips right in line with the rest of the body, heels right over the balls of the feet. And it should feel nice to stretch the legs. So think about that more than anything else. You can reach the heart forward a little bit, but it's like someone has your ankles and they're pulling them back and you're reaching the heart forward at the same time, keeping the body nice and long. Then one forearm at a time, come down to a forearm plank. Still finding the stretch in the legs, heart reaching forward, tops of the thighs pressing up without lifting the hips. Then set the hips down to the mat, tops of the feet to the mat, Sphinx pose. So as you press into the tops of the feet, make sure you're even on the top of the foot, not rolling too far over to the big toe side or the pinky toe side. So you should feel both ends of the top of the foot pressing down. Chest is starting to push forward with the bottom tips of the shoulder blade helping it. Then looking down at the mat, tuck the toes underneath you, lift the hips up back to forearm plank. One hand at a time, plank, down dog. So feet hip width distance apart for downward facing dog. On the inhale, lift the heels up high over the balls of the feet. And then see if you can keep the lift of the heels, but push the hips up and back. They want to go forward toward their shoulders when you lift the heels up. And then on your next exhale, slowly lower the heels back down to the mat. Two more like that. Inhale, lift the heels up high. Exhale, slowly lower. Inhale, lift the heels up high. Exhale, slowly lower. Bend the knees, look forward, walk the feet up to the hands. Take several steps to get there. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Let's do 2 more like that. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Last one. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Let's circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together overhead, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Plant the hands, bend the knees, step back to plank pose. Lower all the way down to the mat slowly. You can use the knees to get there. Tops of the feet down, feet hip width distance apart. Hands back by their lower ribs. Cobra, which could be a little higher than a baby cobra since you already did a back bend. Exhale, release, downward facing dog. Either plank or hands and knees to get back to downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together overhead, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands down to the mat, step back to plank pose. Lower down halfway, chaturanga, cobra or up dog. So listen to that lower back. If it's not loving up dog, take cobra. Exhale, back, downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, float, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhaling up halfway. Exhale, fold, bend the knees, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose. Lower down halfway on the exhale, chaturanga. Inhale up for your back bend. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Taking a couple of breaths here. So you have the option when you bring the feet forward to walk, step. Some of you like to lightly jump. That's great. But if you have anything going on in the lower back, not a good idea to jump. Just skip it. You want to be as gentle as you can. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Reach the arms all the way up to standing. On your inhale, hands come together, down in front of the heart on the exhale. One more. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose. Lower down halfway, chaturanga. Inhale up for your back bend. Exhale back to downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward to the top of the mat, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. So we'll be coming into chair pose. Typically, we do this with the feet hip width distance apart. Today, I'll offer the option of a more traditional chair pose with the big toes together and a slight gap in the heels. If your big toes are touching or that part of the foot's touching, could be like down by the ball of the foot, the knees are touching. If the feet aren't touching, then the knees are not touching. So that's your cue there. All right, bend the knees, reach the arms up. chair pose. So you don't have to do the traditional version of chair pose if that's not working your lower back or bothering you at all. But you'll see where we're going, and then you can decide later. So we'll be coming back through this several times. So from here, lift the heels up high, coming onto the balls of the feet. It's a little easier to do that when you have the big toes together and the knees touching, outer ankles hugging in. Keep this lift, just bring the arms back behind you. You want to focus on something straight in front of you. Arms go back. Inhale, arms reach up, chair pose, heels still lifted. Set the heels back down to the mat, rise all the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. So we'll be playing with that kind of a chair today. Figure out what variation of the feet makes the most sense. Reach the arms all the way up. So Urdhva Hastasana, root down through the legs, lift up through the chest. Find that focal point straight in front of you. Then lift the heels up high, outer ankles hug in. Hands come together, right down in front of the heart. Start to bend the knees, sending the thighs straight forward, coming back to that high version of chair pose, almost like you're going down an elevator. And then once you find your spot with the legs, reach the arms forward and up, set the heels down. Now you're in chair pose, weights in the heels, toes are light. Exhale, forward fold, straighten the legs. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, hands to the mat, step the left foot back behind you, coming into a runner's lunge, but we'll set the back knee down right away. Up to you what you do with the back toes, tucked or untucked. Reach the arms all the way up, lifting the chest. So feeling like you're lifting that left hip point up, so you get long where the hip flexor is, psoas area. And then bring the hands together right down in front of the heart. Press into the hands to keep the chest open, and then open the chest to the right. So you'll just keep the head right over the hips. Keep pressing into the hands. So our first twist, maybe you look to the right, maybe you look back behind you. You're checking out what your stability is like too. So if that's becoming challenging, then stay looking forward. Gaze comes back forward, so does the chest. Hands, come down to the mat. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, and then straighten the front leg. Reach the heart forward, so like you're coming up halfway. And then you can start to fold down over that right leg. Maybe the hands walk back a little bit. Listen to the back side of the right leg. It's a modified pyramid pose. It's a deep stretch. Then bring the right hand inside the right foot. Walk the hands over to the left, and you're turning to face the side of the mat. Put a little bend in the knees, hands come to the hips, and we press ourselves up to standing, facing the side. Angle on the left toes, turn the right toes all the way out. Warrior two. So when you look down at that right foot, you should be able to see your big toe. That's how you know the knee's going over the second and third toe. For a lot of us, our bodies want that right knee to go in toward the big toe where you can't even see it. And then you take away some of that hip opening in the right hip. Flip the front palm up, keep the thigh where it is, reach up and back, reverse warrior. Then windmill the hands down to the mat. Any way you want, back to downward facing dog. So you can take a vinyasa, you can skip it and just go straight to dog. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Decide what kind of footing you want for your chair pose. Big toes together, slight gap in the heels, like you could fit a few sheets of paper, real small, Or you can keep the feet more like hip width distance. Come to chair pose, reach the arms forward and up. If the big toes are touching or that part of the foot, then the knees are touching too. If they're not touching, then there's a gap between the knees. Very important for your alignment, especially the lower back. And then start to shift the weight forward to the balls of the feet. Lift the heels up high. You'll feel how the legs have to fire up for this. Then come all the way up to standing. Keep those heels up high. Back to your chair pose. Send the knees forward. Keep the heels up high. Once you get to your chair pose, reach the arms back behind you, chest open, heels high. Reach the arms forward. Keep those heels high. Set the heels down to the mat. And exhale, forward fold, straighten the legs. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fingertips to the mat, right foot steps back. Set that back knee down. Reach the arms forward and up, low lunge. So chest is going up, legs are going down toward the mat. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Open the chest to the left. Just staying here so you can explore the twist with the head right over the hips. Maybe you look to the left, maybe you look over that left shoulder. And start to bring everything to face forward, chest and gaze. Hands come down to the mat. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, straighten the front leg. You can walk the hands in so they're more underneath the shoulders if you want to. Inhale forward halfway, exhale fold. Left hand inside the left leg. Walk the hands over to the right, turning the toes. Put a little bend in the knees, hands to the hips. Press yourself up to standing. Angle in the right toes. Turn the left toes all the way out. Warrior two. Keep that knee on the left side going straight forward over the second and third toe. Flip the front palm up. Reverse warrior. Windmill the hands down to the mat. Make your way back, downward facing dog. Up to you if you want to take the vinyasa. Take an inhale in through the nose. Back out through the nose. Bend the knees, look forward, lightly bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Maybe big toes together, slight gap in the heels, chair pose when you're ready. Lift the heels up high, shifting the weight forward toward the balls of the feet. So outer edges of the legs hug in toward the midline, and so do the outer hips. And then come all the way up to standing. See if you can keep the heels up high, keeping those outer legs engaged. Back to your chair pose. Start to send the knees forward. You go slow so you build that strength. Keep the heels as high as you can. Hips shift back. You don't have to go too low. And then once you find your chair pose with the heels lifted, reach the arms back behind you, trying to keep your stability and balance. And then reach the arms forward and up. Set the heels down to the mat, traditional chair pose, Utkatasana. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fingertips to the mat. Left foot steps way back. Set the back knee down. Reach the arms up, low lunge. This time, hands come together right in front of the heart. Twist to the right. And then you can start to lean forward, taking the twist deeper this round. So you can rest the elbow. You could hook the elbow if the body's really comfortable in a twist. And if twist is bothering your spine at all, back off, take it easy. You want to find that length on the inhale. And once you're in the twist, just stay in it for the exhale. Looking back down at the mat, hands come to the mat, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, straighten the front leg. Quick modified pyramid pose, let the head and the neck go. And then bring that right hand inside the foot, walk the hands over to the left, put a little bend in the knees, hands to the hips, and we press ourselves up to standing. Angle in the left toes, turn the right toes out, warrior two. Flip that front palm up, reverse warrior. Adding on this time, right hand comes down outside the foot or a block. Left arm reaches up and over, extended side angle. You could do forearm to thigh too. That's a great option. But if you have a block, if you go tallest height with the block outside the foot, it's really close to forearm to thigh. Just a smidge deeper. Look down at the mat, left hand to the mat, come onto the ball of the back foot, step back, vinyasa or straight to dog. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Find your feet for chair pose. Maybe big toes together, slight gap in the heels if you're liking that. Bend the knees, reach the arms up, chair pose. So belly hugs in, chest is lifted. Start to shift the weight forward to the balls of the feet, lifting up the heels as high as you can. Come all the way up to standing. Take your time. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Start to bend the knees, slowly lower the hips without lowering the heels, back to your chair pose. Reach the arms forward, keep the heels high, and then reach the arms back behind you. Arms reach forward, keep the heels high, and then set the heels down to the mat, chair pose, and forward fold, straighten the legs. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, right foot steps back, set that right knee down, reach the arms up. Hands come together, down in front of the heart, twist the chest to the left. Find your deeper twist on this side. Maybe you're already in it. Maybe you start to rest the right elbow on the thigh or hook it outside of the thigh. But lengthen the spine all the way up through the crown of the head, which for some of us means bringing the chest back a little bit. Then looking back down at the mat, hands to the mat, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, straighten the front leg, modified pyramid pose. Find if you want, decide if you want the hands to walk back a little bit as you fold over the left leg. Left hand inside the left foot, walk the hands over to the right, turning the toes to the side of the mat. The little bend in the knees, hands to the hips, press yourself up to standing. Angle in the right toes, turn the left toes all the way out, find warrior two. Flip the front palm, reverse warrior. Extended side angle, forearm to thigh, hand outside the foot, or hand on a block. Hands come down to the mat, make your way back, downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, feet come up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Coming into chair pose, decide how you want the feet. Reach the arms up, bend the knees. Lift the heels up high. Come all the way up to standing. Bring the hands together down in front of the heart. Come back to that chair pose. Keep the hands together in front of the heart. You're still pressing into the hands to keep the chest open. Maybe you come into a toe squat this time. So that means the knees shift way forward, hips come down toward the heels, and you're back in the toe squat that we started with, just a little bit different this time. You can always stay in the chair pose if that's better. And then from here, open the chest to the right. So you're coming into that twist, keeping the knees forward. Come back to center with the chest. And then hands come down to the mat, straighten the legs, forward fold wherever you are. Let the head and the neck go. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, left foot steps back. Set that left knee down to the mat, reach the arms up, hands come together down in front of the heart, twist to the right. So second twist this side. You could hook the elbow. You could also open up the arms wide. That's a deeper twist. See if the shoulders are okay with it and if the spine's okay with it. Some of you might be able to get the left hand down to the mat outside the right foot, but don't force it. If it's not happening, then just skip it. If the arms are out wide, bring the hands back together. Look down at the mat, hands to the mat, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, straighten the front leg. Fold over the front leg. Right hand inside the right foot, turn the toes to the left. Little bend in the knees as you bring the hands to the hips and you press yourself up to standing. Angle on the left toes, turn the right toes all the way out. Warrior two. Flip the front palm up, reverse warrior. Extended side angle, Parsvakonasana. Maybe hand outside the foot, maybe not. Left arm reaches up and over. Opening the chest up, trying to get long in the right side of the torso. Driving down through that back leg. Hands back down to the mat, make your way back, downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Big toes together, slight gap in the heels, chair pose. Shift the weight forward to the balls of the feet, hug those outer ankles in as you lift the heels up high, then come all the way up to standing with the heels up high. Hands come together down in front of the heart. Keep the heels high, send the knees forward like you're coming back into that high-heeled chair pose. Stay here or come all the way down into your toe squat, sending the knees forward, hips over the heels, chest lifted. Then find that twist, open the chest to the left, hugging the core in, squeezing those legs together. Come back to center with the chest, going slow. We'll all bring the hands down to the mat, straighten the legs, fold over the legs. Inhale up halfway. Hands to the mat, right foot steps back, set that back knee down, reach the arms up. Do we do this side already? Oh, shoot. I think this is the third cycle. Okay, wait. Bring the hands back down to reach the arms up. Bring the hands to the heart. Open the chest out to the left. And then maybe you take the deeper twist. I remember where we are. Elbow to thigh. You could bring the hand outside the foot and open up the arms wide if you want to. but the hand doesn't have to touch. So don't feel like you're reaching down too much to get that to happen. It's just an option if it's there. Hands come back together if you open up the arms wide. Look back down at the mat. Bring the hands down to the mat. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, straighten the front leg, fold over the front leg. Left hand inside the left foot, walk the hands over to the right, facing the side mat, put a little bend in the knees, hands to the hips, come up to standing, angle in the right toes, turn the left toes all the way out, Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. Keeping that back leg strong. That's something I've been working a lot with in my own practice, is pushing that right thigh, the top of the right thigh back to get the leg straighter. It also helps you drive down through that right foot. Flip the front palm, reach up and back, reverse warrior. Extended side angle. Maybe hand outside the foot, right arm reaches up and over, open up across the chest and get as long as you can in the left side torso. Right hand comes down to the mat. Vinyasa, optional on the way back to downward facing dog. Few breaths in your downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up to the hands. So we've been playing with this practice, working up to a peak pose. We'll explore that now. Bring the feet together for chair pose, maybe big toes together, slight gap in the heels, if that's been working for you. Bend the knees, reach the arms up, chair pose. Shift the weight forward into the balls of the feet, lift the heels up high. Come all the way up to standing. Get as tall as you can. Reach up with those heels, getting high on the balls of the feet. Bring the hands together, down in front of the heart, keeping the lift of the chest. Start to send the knees straight forward, inner thighs hugging in toward one another, lowering the hips down to your chair. And then maybe that toe squat, maybe you keep going, sending the knees forward, getting the hips right over the heels. You're back in your toe squat. Take this in stages. Maybe you open up the chest to the right and you're in your twist, knees going forward. You could bring the hands down to the mat so that the left arm, the back of the left arm, is against that right thigh. And that's a deeper twist. Both hands are down on the ground, they're shoulder width distance apart. You could stay right here, or you can look forward, bend the elbows like chaturanga, keep the heels together as you lift the heels up. And it's that outer left foot that's lifting up. So it's an arm balance. Set the feet back down and then come back into your toe squat twist. Hands come back to center, then down to the mat, straighten the legs. So that's side crow. It's an arm balance with a twist all at the same time. And we're not doing the rest of the flow. We're just going to play with that again on the other side. So inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Big toes together, slight gap in the heels. Find chair pose. Arms up, gaze forward. Then bring the heels up. Shift the weight into the balls of the feet. Come all the way up to standing. So you're building strength here. You're connecting the whole body, getting it working together so that you can play with this arm balance. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Send the knees straight forward. Hug those inner thighs together. That's part of your core and a big part of this arm balance. Maybe you come down lower into the toe squat, sending the knees forward, hips right over the heels, head right over the hips. Then open the chest to the left, coming into that twist. Maybe the hands come down to the mat. If they do, it's just the back of the right arm that touches the left thigh. Left arm is free. Look way forward. Come into chaturanga with the arms. So you're making a shelf with that right arm, and then hug those inner thighs together, hug the belly and reach the chest forward, kick those feet up. So it's like you're lifting that outer right heel up, keeping the feet together for your side crow. And then set the feet down to the mat, come back to where you were in that toe squat twist, back to center, hands come down to the mat, straighten the legs, forward fold. Let's take a wider stance with our feet. So the feet go to the outer edges of the mat. You can clasp opposite elbows and let the head and the neck go. So we haven't played with an arm balance in a while. That's always a fun one to do, especially for those of us that have a hard time inverting but have the strength. Switch the clasp of the elbows. Sometimes it can be easier when you have your body in a tight little ball, so that even if you're going to go down, it's not that far. And the trick with the gaze going forward is really helpful in keeping the pose lifted and not going down toward the ground. Hands come down to the mat, heel toe the feet back to hip width distance. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands to the mat. Last vinyasa, if you want one, on the way to down dog. Knees come down to the mat, bring the feet over to one side and come to seated on the mat. So you'll extend the legs out in front of you. That was a pretty tough practice today. If you want to have a supported bridge, just take a block outside the hips. It's probably a good idea if you're not sure. So that way it's just there. Come down onto your backs, head on the mat. Walk the feet in. So you're lining up the heels underneath the knees. You don't want to feel like your feet are way out in front of you. That'll not help the structure of the pose. Press into the feet, lift the hips up. You can either grab the outer edges of the mat like you're going to rip it apart, or maybe the shoulders are open enough. You could interlace the fingers underneath you, lifting and spreading the chest, keeping those legs nice and strong. If you're doing a supported bridge pose, block just goes underneath the hips and you rest there, and you can stay there for all three back bends, this one and the next two. Slowly release, bring the hips back down to the mat, rest here for a couple of breaths. If you want to do something deeper in the second and or third round, you're welcome to take Urdhva Dhanurasana, coming all the way up with the hands on the side of the head. So if you're doing bridge pose, great. We're coming back into it. Press into the feet, lift the hips up, get the shoulder blades underneath you, find the arm variation that's working. If you're on a block, you just hang tight there and let the block do all the work. One more inhale, lift, and exhale, release. Hips come back down unless you're on a block. Hang tight. And then third and final round, stick with supported bridge or bridge. If you want to go all the way up for Urdhva Dhanurasana, I think I'm ready for it. I'll talk you through it. Press into the feet, lift the hips up, hands go down to the mat outside the ears, and then you come up to the top of the head first. So you can just find the pose. Plug into the arms and the legs at the same time, pushing yourself up, and then lifting and spreading the whole front side of the body. Chin to chest if you're all the way up. We'll all come back down to the mat, resting the head, hips. If you're on a block, lift the hips up so you can set the block off to the side. And then from here, let's scoot the hips over to the left, knees come over to the right. So you could have a block between the knees, especially if anything's going on in the lower back, that keeps space there. Right arm reaches back behind you, outside the shoulder. The arm could be extended, or you can bend it at the elbow, and that makes the weight on the shoulder a little heavier. So for some of us, that feels good. And you'll find your way onto your back again, switching sides. So you'll scoot the hips over to the left, knees come over to the right, left arm reaches back behind you, either extended or bent. Gaze falls over the left arm, falling into the twist on this side. You'll start to come back to center, finding center on your back, soles of the feet on the mat. Let's hug the right knee in toward the chest. Keep that left foot where it is. If it's okay on the lower back, extend that left leg forward. So the heel just rests down on the mat. You're still hugging that right knee in. Left hand comes to the top of the left thigh to help that left thigh go down toward the mat. Open up the knee to the right, just like halfway, maybe. It's not going to go that far. It's almost like you're trying to get the right knee in line with the right shoulder. Or if you were to bring it all the way up, it would go to the right underarm. You can't do it here, but just pointing at it with the knee. And then you can hang onto the knee. You could also grab onto the back of the thigh. You could even fish hook the back of the knee with the forearm. Some of you are comfortable grabbing down lower toward the calf, ankle, or maybe you get the outer edge of the foot and you come into a version of half happy baby, which I think is a lot harder than full happy baby. Gives you an opportunity to just focus on the one hip. Left hip is still down, so don't lift that. Left heel is still down on the mat. And now you are trying to get that right knee as close as you can toward the underarm, just outside of it. Then bring the sole of the left foot to the mat, right ankle, left thigh, thread the needle. Bring the legs in, reach through, grab the back of the left thigh, or you could grab the top of the shin, which might be more accessible today than it usually is. Right foot flex, press that right knee away from you. So now we're getting into a different spot of that right hip. And some of us feel a nice stretch in this pose on the right glute. If you don't worry, it's fine. And set the feet back down to the mat. Same thing, other side. Hug the left knee in toward the chest, which is nice to do with the sole of the right foot on the mat to start. So you can feel that space in the lower back and then see what changes when you start to extend that right heel forward. It's on the mat, it's not lifted, and you still bring that left knee in. But try not to bring that outer left hip up toward the shoulder. Right hand comes to the top of the right thigh, pressing it down. Bring that left knee over to the left, just about halfway. So the knee and the shoulder are kind of going in the same direction. Try not to lift the right heel, right hip, or right shoulder away from the mat. And then half happy baby on this side. So play around with those options, grabbing onto the back of the thigh, fish hooking the knee. Maybe you grab the calf or outer edge of the foot. So that left knee's outside of the torso, wherever you are. If it's coming in, then back off with how far you're reaching with the hand. Heads down, right hip down, pull right side of the body. Right foot starts to come back to the mat, bending the right leg. Cross the left ankle on top of the right thigh, thread the needle. So maybe grabbing the back of the right thigh or top of the shin. Stay even on the hips, try not to rock over to the left. And then gently press that outer left knee away from you, keeping the head down on the mat and the upper body. And set the feet back down onto the mat. Extend the legs out in front of you, which should feel nice. So the feet are hip width or wider than hip width distance apart, maybe as wide as your mat. Toes are turning out, and you might feel a nice opening on the top of the hips, pelvis area, especially like where the hip flexors are, because we've had the legs bent for quite a while. Arms come down by the sides, palms face up. If you need to lift the chest to get the shoulder blades underneath you, take a moment to do that. Close the eyes. Take a deep breath in through the nose. Exhale out of the mouth, Shavasana. So letting go of that breath control. Going back to letting the body breathe on its own. And giving a body a moment to just rest with all of that work, all of those poses. You'll start to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Stretch the arms overhead. Getting long in your body, finding all that length and space. And you can walk the feet in, bending the knees. Rolling over onto your right side, cradle the head on the arm, keep the eyes closed. Be there for a moment. When you're ready to come up, press the left hand down in front of you to press yourself up to an easy cross-legged seat, coming into your meditation, sitting up tall, being grateful for everything your body can do, that this practice is even an option. Bring the hands together, slight bow of the head, honor and acknowledge your heart and spirit, as well as everyone around you. Bring the head back up, blink open the eyes, namaste. Thank you. Hope you had fun with that arm balance and the rest of the flow. See you next week and on Tuesday. Have a good one.